Before we get into the use cases, let me give you a 30-second explanation. Audio typically travels through your audio interface in one of two directions. It either comes in from microphones, instruments, or other sources, or it goes out to your speakers, headphones, or other destinations. Normally, those are completely separate paths, in one side and out the other. But Loopback creates a third option. It takes whatever is going out and feeds it back in as a recordable input, all inside the interface with no physical cables involved. There are more advanced ways to use Loopback that I'll get to later in this video. But let's start with a very simple example where I need to record audio playing from another program on the computer into the DAW. I could set the audio output of my computer to output 1 and 2 of the audio interface, then take a pair of cables and connect those outputs to inputs 1 and 2. Then I'd be able to record those inputs in my DAW session. However, Loopback does this for me without the need for cables. All I really need to do is set the audio output of my computer to output 1 and 2 of the audio interface, then engage the Loopback button on outputs 1 and 2 within my interface software. And now any audio signals routed to those outputs will show up as input signals on the respective inputs. In this case, inputs 1 and 2. From there, it's just the same as recording anything else. I set the input of the new track to input 1 and 2, arm the track, and press record. Now, if you're working alongside me on your own audio interface, you may be saying this looks a bit different than what I'm used to. I'll explain the benefit of the way RME does this later in the video. And if you're using a more advanced audio interface like the one I'm using, you may have similar flexibility available to you. However, on a more basic audio interface like the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, you might only have 2 audio outputs to work with, left and right. In that case, your interface driver might have dedicated inputs called Loopback 1 and Loopback 2. The principle is the same even in the case of a more basic interface. When you select Loopback 1 and 2 as the inputs to your track in the DAW session, any audio playing through the outputs of the interface will come in through those Loopback inputs. The interface I'm using has a lot more than 2 outputs though. I've got 6 line outputs, a stereo headphone output, plus some digital outputs. And one benefit of this is that I can set up a mix for myself and my studio monitors using outputs 1 and 2. Then I can make a Loopback mix on another pair of outputs that will be completely separate from what I hear through the speakers. I can even create several Loopback mixes all at the same time using the various outputs. When I engage Loopback on outputs 3 and 4, for example, now audio comes in on inputs 3 and 4. And the same thing can be done using any of the output-input pairs that are shown here on this screen. Again, the Loopback feature on this interface sends audio from the selected outputs to the respective inputs. And for me, this additional flexibility is extremely powerful, especially when I need to record my microphone, my DAW audio, and other sources all at once, keeping them recorded to separate tracks so I can mix them later on, all while setting up submixes for whatever I might be doing.